you believe we truly understand the world we live in? Or is it possible that some discoveries were never meant to be found? Years ago, a small group of excavators entered an ancient temple buried beneath the earth. What they uncovered inside has never been fully explained, and some believe the entrance should have remained sealed forever. The discovery happened in a remote valley few people had ever visited. At first glance, the ruins looked like many others scattered across forgotten landscapes. Broken pillars, fallen stone, fragments of carvings worn by centuries of wind. Nothing about the place seemed particularly unusual until the team noticed something hidden beneath the floor. It was not treasure, not statues, not even the remains of a burial chamber. Instead, they uncovered something far more unsettling. A stone structure that did not seem meant to be opened at all. The slab was carved perfectly into the ground. No gaps, no cracks, no signs that it had ever been moved before. And yet, strange symbols were etched across its surface. Symbols repeated over and over again like a warning, or perhaps like instructions. Now imagine kneeling beside that stone yourself. You brush away centuries of dust with your hand, and slowly the carvings begin to appear beneath the dirt. A symbol you've never seen before. A symbol no one present could understand. What would you do in that moment? Would you treat it as just another archaeological discovery? Or would something about it make you hesitate? Because sometimes the past leaves messages behind. Messages meant for anyone curious enough to uncover them. Daniel Hargrove, the archaeologist leading the excavation, felt that hesitation immediately. He had spent decades exploring ruins across the world, but this place felt different from the moment they arrived. Not sacred, not ceremonial. Almost as if the temple itself had been built to hide something. And perhaps the strangest part of the story is this. The team did not come searching for a secret. They were simply exploring another forgotten ruin. Yet, without realizing it, they were standing above something buried for centuries. And opening that stone would lead them somewhere no one expected. But before we follow them any further into that temple, there is something important to remember. Stories like this have a strange way of resurfacing through history. And if you're someone who enjoys uncovering mysteries like this one, you may want to stay close to this channel, because what they found next becomes far stranger. The team did not open the stone immediately. At first, they simply stared at it. For several minutes, no one spoke, as if everyone present felt the same strange hesitation. The symbols carved across the slab seemed older than the temple itself, and that detail alone was enough to make Daniel uneasy, because temples are usually built around sacred objects, not the other way around. Yet here, the stone door looked older than the structure surrounding it, almost as if the temple had been constructed later to cover something already there. But that possibility raised a troubling question. What had been here before the temple existed? One of the excavators brushed more dust from the carvings. The symbol repeated across the stone was simple, yet strangely precise. A circle divided by a single vertical line, over and over again. Not random decoration. A pattern. Daniel took several photographs of the carvings. Later analysis would show something even stranger. The symbol had never been recorded in any known ancient language. Not Greek, not Egyptian, not Mesopotamian, which meant the temple might belong to a civilization historians had never documented. Now imagine realizing that while standing inside those ruins, you believe you're excavating a known historical site, but the symbols in front of you belong to no known culture. At that moment, the discovery stops being an excavation. It becomes a mystery. And mysteries have a way of pulling people deeper than they expect. Eventually, the team brought in tools to shift the slab. Not heavy machinery, just simple metal levers and careful pressure. Because whatever lay beneath the stone had remained untouched for centuries. No one wanted to damage it. The first movement was barely noticeable. A faint grinding sound echoed through the temple floor. Dust fell into the thin seam around the stone. And slowly, the slab shifted. For a brief moment, nothing happened. Then a thin line of darkness appeared beneath the edge of the stone. Cold air drifted upward from the opening. Air that had not touched the surface world in nearly 2,000 years. And that was when Daniel realized something else. The air did not smell like an ancient tomb. It did not smell stale or rotten like sealed chambers usually do. Instead, it smelled neutral, almost fresh, which raised a question no one could answer. How could air remain fresh inside a sealed chamber for 2,000 years? The team widened the opening slightly. Lantern light was lowered carefully into the gap. The beam revealed something that immediately silenced everyone in the room. Not treasure, not statues, not even a burial chamber. Instead, there were stairs. A narrow staircase descending into the earth beneath the temple. Step after step, disappearing into darkness. And the stone steps looked almost untouched by time. No collapse, no debris, no cracks. Almost as if someone had expected people to walk down them. Now ask yourself something. If you discovered a staircase hidden beneath an ancient temple, a staircase no one had entered in 2,000 years, would you go down? Or would you begin wondering why it had been sealed in the first place? Daniel hesitated longer than anyone expected. Later, he would admit that something about the staircase felt wrong. Not dangerous exactly, but deliberate, like a door someone had closed very carefully. But curiosity eventually won. It almost always does. And that is how the team found themselves preparing to descend into the darkness. But before we follow them down those ancient steps, consider this. Every discovery in history began with someone asking a question. And sometimes those questions lead to incredible knowledge. But sometimes they lead somewhere far less comfortable. So if exploring the unknown is something that fascinates you as much as it fascinated them, you may want to quietly stay close to stories like this, because what waited at the bottom of that staircase was something none of them were prepared to see. And the moment they stepped into that chamber, the mystery of the temple became far stranger than anyone imagined. The staircase was narrower than anyone expected. Only one person could descend at a time. The lantern light moved slowly along the walls as the team began their descent. Step by step, the temple above them disappeared into darkness. And with every step downward, the air became noticeably warmer. At first, no one commented on it. Ancient underground chambers often trap heat beneath the earth. But after several minutes, the warmth became impossible to ignore. It was not the stale heat of a sealed tomb. It felt almost circulating, as if air was somehow moving through the hidden space below. Daniel paused halfway down the staircase. He lifted the lantern toward the wall beside him. And that was when the team noticed something they had missed at the entrance. The stone walls were covered with carvings, not decorative patterns, not symbols like the ones on the stone slab above. These were scenes, images carved into the stone like an ancient story. The first carving showed a group of people gathered around a large circular chamber. Their bodies were bent forward, almost as if they were kneeling or bowing. But what they were facing was unclear. The carving had been deliberately worn in that area, as if someone had tried to erase the center of the image, which only made the scene more unsettling. Why would anyone erase part of their own history? The team moved farther down the staircase. More carvings appeared along the walls. The figures returned again and again in the images, sometimes standing, sometimes pointing downward, sometimes looking back over their shoulders. And in several scenes, they appeared to be leaving, not entering the chamber, leaving it. Now think about that carefully. If the temple was built to protect something sacred, why do the carvings show people walking away from it? Why do the figures look hesitant, almost afraid? The deeper the team descended, the clearer the carvings became. In one image, several figures were pushing a massive circular door closed, the same shape as the stone slab above. Behind the door, something large was carved into the chamber floor. But again, the center of the image had been scratched away, removed intentionally, which suggested something deeply unsettling. The people who built the temple wanted future visitors to see the warning, but not the thing they were warning about. Daniel felt a quiet tension settle in his chest, because the carvings were beginning to suggest something different from what everyone assumed. The temple may not have been built to protect something valuable. It may have been built to hide something dangerous. But then they reached the bottom of the staircase, and the moment they stepped into the chamber, that theory began to fall apart. The underground room was enormous, far larger than the temple above it. Rows of stone pillars stretched into darkness. Dust hung motionless in the air, and in the center of the chamber stood a structure no one expected. An altar, but not the kind found in most ancient temples. This one was circular and carved directly into the stone floor, which was strange enough. But what truly shocked the team was what they found beneath it, because there was a hollow cavity carved into the center of the altar, and inside that hollow space, something was reflecting the lantern light. Metal, perfectly smooth, perfectly preserved. Daniel leaned closer to examine it. At first it looked like some kind of ancient object, but the surface was unlike anything he had seen in archaeological sites before. No corrosion, no cracks, no erosion from time. Just a smooth, metallic surface, as if it had been placed there yesterday. And that was the moment the entire story of the temple changed, because suddenly the carvings on the staircase made a different kind of sense. The ancient people were not sealing the temple to protect the object. They were sealing the temple because they did not know how to destroy it. A mysterious object hidden beneath a temple, untouched for 2,000 years. So difficult to destroy that an entire civilization chose to bury it instead. But the most disturbing question had not even appeared yet, because when Daniel raised the lantern closer to the metal surface, he noticed something none of them were prepared for. The object was glowing, faintly, but unmistakably. And that meant one terrifying possibility. After 2,000 years beneath the earth, the thing inside the temple might not be dormant at all. For a long moment, no one moved. The faint glow coming from the object beneath the altar pulsed softly in the darkness. It was not bright enough to illuminate the chamber, but it was strong enough that every person standing there could see it clearly. And that meant something impossible was happening. Daniel slowly crouched beside the altar, He lowered the lantern closer to the metal surface. The glow did not come from the lantern light reflecting. It was coming from inside the object itself. A dim pulse of light moving slowly beneath the smooth metallic surface, almost like a heartbeat. 2,000 years underground, and somehow it was still active. One of the researchers whispered something no one had considered before. What if the temple was not built to hide the object? What if it was built to contain it? The carvings on the staircase suddenly felt different. The people sealing the door, the scratched out images, the figures leaving the chamber instead of approaching it. It no longer looked like a religious ritual. It looked like a warning. Daniel leaned closer to the object. Around the outer edge of the metal surface were small circular indentations, perfectly shaped slots spaced evenly around the rim. Empty slots, as if something had once been attached there, something that was now missing. And suddenly, the carvings made even more sense. The ancient people had not buried the object alone. They had separated it, removed parts of it, pieces that once connected to the central device, and taken those pieces away, somewhere else. Think about that for a moment. An ancient civilization discovers something they cannot destroy, something powerful enough that they fear leaving it intact. So they divide it, scatter the pieces, and seal the remaining core beneath layers of stone and earth, not to worship it, but to make sure it is never whole again. Daniel slowly stood up. The glow from the object continued pulsing faintly beneath the altar. Weak, incomplete, almost dormant, but still alive. And that raised a question none of them could answer. Where were the other pieces? Were they buried in other temples? Hidden in ruins that had never been excavated? Or perhaps lost completely to history? For 2,000 years, the temple had kept its secret. But now the secret was uncovered. And that meant the protection built by the ancient civilization was gone. Because once a mystery is discovered, people begin searching for the rest of it. And if the carvings were telling the truth, then somewhere in the world, the missing pieces of that object may still exist, waiting, hidden, forgotten, until someone finds them. So the real mystery may not be what was buried beneath that temple. The real mystery is much larger. If one ancient civilization discovered something powerful enough to seal away forever, how many other discoveries like that might still be buried across the earth? And perhaps the most unsettling question of all is this: did the ancient builders seal the temple to protect the world from the object, or to protect the object from the world? Because sometimes the past is not something that disappears. Sometimes it simply waits for someone curious enough to open the door again. And because there are many more forgotten places, buried discoveries, and ancient secrets still waiting to be uncovered, you may want to stay close to this channel. I'll see you another time as we continue uncovering the hidden mysteries of our world.